Day 625 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzy here, and today is a really quick update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. Before I get into it, I'll mention to you even more technical difficulties than I thought I would have. Now it's the mouse and my microphone, so today it's going to be horrible quality all around, but it is what it is. I feel like the Russian army. So starting off, we'll take a look at the Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 309,000 military personnel losses, which includes 1 tank, 3 APVs and 14 artillery. So we'll head over to the map now, and we'll start out in Russia at Buryatia, the oblast, as the Ozerny mining and processing plant was going up in flames for mysterious reasons. This plant mines and processes a number of important metals that have multiple uses for Russian military applications, and at this stage you can bet that at least 2 to 4 times per week now Russia is dealing with fires for facilities that have military value. I mean, you can really take that to the bank now. Then we'll head across to Avdiivka as on the northern flank. So the remaining 16 employees of the coke plant have been evacuated, as it's believed that Russia is gearing up for yet another large mechanized and infantry attack. Although many pundits suggest that it's a trap for Russian forces, and indeed the larger Avdiivka region could be considered something of a trap for Russia, being that they lost more hardware in this location with their multiple offensive attempts than anywhere else on the map this year, and probably since the beginning of the war as well. So literally hundreds of armored vehicles lost. Then just south of here at Pisky, another Russian TOS-1A unguided multiple rocket launcher was destroyed. Just again, can you believe it? Now these things pack quite the punch, at the cost of being extremely short range and lacking in any decent sort of armor protection. Which means they're extremely vulnerable to Ukrainian FPV drones now more than ever, as the Ukrainian FPV, those drones, are getting just more and more technically capable every single month. And as you can see here on the map, it's no more than 6,000 meters from the front, which is its upper range limit from which it can operate. Then also in the east, a Russian Strela-10 short-range air defense missile system was seen trying to shoot down a Ukrainian drone unsuccessfully to try to take out that threat from the AFU. It's just really too bad that the Strela-10s are not designed for small drones. In fact, helicopters would be the preferred use for these Russian platforms. Then to the southern front, as Ukraine was making liberations east of Verbova, or should I say, pushing to the east at Verbova's west, where they ended up eliminating that protrusion from the Russian side, and going back and forth on the date map you can see that right there. And protrusion is a bit of a misnomer in this case, because it wasn't really Russian protruding forward, it was the leftover defending area that Russia finally lost. Like these are not surprising, given that Russia is lacking in both helicopters and closely positioned helicopters that would normally provide air support. But Russia was forced to relocate many of their chopper fleet literally back to Russia due to their fear from attackums. Then heading across to Kherson. So there's been a bit happening here at the moment. A lot of it is Russian doom posting, as we call it. So for instance, in Krynky, as Russian sources have stated that they are shelling their own in the region, because after losing contact with their soldiers on the ground in Krynky specifically, they've relied on outdated and falsified maps as found on Russian Telegram channels due to the outdated or rosy pictures that those channels provide. So Of course, all of this is happening beneath the backdrop of the AFU infiltrating this town south of the Dnipro River as the AFU continue to get a foothold into that location. Then, as for more Russian doom posting in the region, so Russian telegrammers confess they can't cope with the never-ending stream of Ukrainian FPV drones. But what makes it worse for them is they also seem to state that they've got no jamming technology or capabilities like that, electronic warfare capabilities to counteract them. Also, for the last little bit of Russian doom posting in this region today, so here they're mentioning that there's significant concentrations of Ukrainian forces that are right on the edge of the North Bank. And also that Ukrainian air defenses are just 2 to 3 kilometers from the shoreline on the North Bank as well. So the Russian telegram states that the Russian forces are not working on them, not working on the air defenses. That is firing on them with artillery, that sort of thing. And so this guy goes on to state that the Russian military is still demanding that the Russian elements located here are to fly into the vicinity of these Ukrainian air defense locations, which this guy considers to be untenable, unviable as an approach, obviously. So isn't it interesting how Russian mil bloggers have a better understanding of the war than their upper commanders? Then in Skadovsk, as a missile strike was reported there at the hotel, which was used by the Russian military as a base. Now, some Russian commentary, if you will, confirmed the loss of some of their comrades from this event as well. But little more is known about it at this stage. Then moving down to Russian-occupied Crimea, as there was an explosion reported in Sevastopol by the Russian authorities. Now, those same authorities claimed it to be a Ukrainian Neptune missile that was neutralized. Although I find that Ukraine is very particular with their long-range and high payload missiles. That is to say, they never just send one and hope for the best. As instead, they use the incredibly precise or right moment in timing. Then, simultaneously, they flood Russian air defenses with drones, making for a perfect storm of poor conditions for Russian air defenses. And we see a lot of that these days, more than ever, really. Then we'll head across to some news for today, and we'll start out with some Russian hardware news. This is a bit of an interesting one. So, as investigated by the Wall Street Journal, Russia's military hardware and spare parts situation has become so dire that Moscow is asking or begging their various military export partner nations for Russian weapons and various other equipment. For instance, it was found that Russia has been asking Egypt, Belarus, Brazil, and Pakistan for helicopter engines that it previously provided to these countries. Oh, that's embarrassing. Groveling to your export partners like that. Looks like those strikes with ATACMS the other week on Russian airfields was quite successful. In fact, I doubt Russia could be considered much of an exporter of military goods these days after, I guess you could say, deciding to use up so much of their equipment in Ukraine. Then moving across to some economy news. So it's been reported that the main item of expenditure for Russians now has become food, accounting for about 33 to 40% depending on all of their weekly expenditures. And there is a great many reasons for that, not the least of which is Putin's invasion attempts in Ukraine that is slowly but surely destroying the Russian economy. But stories like these always remind me of the Russian talk show host Skybeva stating that things were so bad in Europe that people couldn't afford bread, or how in the UK restaurants were forced to serve squirrels due to food shortages there. I mean, give me a break. That one gets me every time. Then in some other news, the Institute for the Study of War, the ISW, has recently said that the Russian General Staff is making decisions based on maps that do not reflect the battlefield reality. Yes, This is correct. I've been saying this for quite a while now. And the reason, well, Russian commanders have delivered false and therefore overly positive reports to their superiors, which all goes all the way up to the Russian MAD, who then make decisions based on these falsified reports. Falsified reports of which exist only due to the systemically flawed nature of the Russian military. Because in a nutshell, if you report good things in the Russian military, you are safe. But if you report bad things, truthfully bad things, in the military there, then you are not safe and you are getting demoted and sent all the way to the front line. Now, unfortunately for Russia, an army needs to take a sober assessment of the battlefield situation, no matter whether it is good or bad, if they're going to expect any undeniable and ongoing success in the field. Then moving across to a quick funny to round it all off for today, guys. So the president of Kazakhstan, Tokayev, pulled a bit of a power move by speaking in Kazakh instead of Russian as he opened his speech to the visiting Russian delegation headed by Putin. And just for a little context, Tokayev speaks Russian. In fact, he speaks it very well, which is quite the snub to Putin and his gang of thugs, really. And what I liked most was that early on in the video, you can see all the Russian pollies scrambling for their translator headsets that they thought that they wouldn't need. Oh, and I almost forgot one last funny, really quick one to round it all off with. So here we go. So sometimes we see footage of Putin that looks just a little bit off. Am I right? Like in this recent footage, he looks like he's been stung by bees on both cheeks. But it's actually very, very likely the case that this recent video of him was just after a Botox refiller. And I'm not even joking at this point because since I started this channel, Putin sort of forced me to learn a lot about Botox. So the things we learn. So thanks for watching, guys. Yeah, appreciate you putting up with this video. It's just going to be a one-off in terms of the audio quality and the lack of animations and memes and all sorts of things. I just wanted to get a few things out into the ether, the YouTube ether today. So yeah, just wanted to do this quick video. But yeah, thanks again. Please leave a comment, subscribe if not already. And I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers.